Hello my friends, in today's video we will take a look at Fujifilm X-F 50mm F1.0 RWR. This is one of the most anticipated Fuji lenses in a long time. Being the first f1.0 autofocus lens in the world, it is definitely a statement lens from Fujifilm. I've had an opportunity to test a pre-production sample for 3 days, and in this video I would like to share my experiences with this lens in combination with X-T4. At the time of making of this video, I don't know the exact price of this lens, but it will be linked in the description. 50mm on APS-C translates to 75mm full-frame equivalent, which is typical focal length for portraits. I am not much of a portrait photographer, so I mostly use it for achieving a bit different perspective in different genres of photography and video. Personally, I found the 75mm equivalent to be a bit more versatile than 85mm, and I actually like this focal length a lot. Regarding the physical aspects of 50mm f1, the official weight should be 845 grams. Of course, at f1 it can't be as small as f2, but I actually found it to be quite manageable on X-T4. It actually felt pretty similar to 16 to 55mm f2.8, so it is on the edge of what is okay to use with additional grip. The build quality is excellent. The whole construction is metal, including both rings. I don't think that there is anything plastic on this lens. It is definitely a very premium product. It is fully weather sealed and it has very substantial rubber gasket around the mount. The mount is metal as well, of course. It has 77mm filter thread, which is in line with other high-end Fuji lenses. Regarding the control elements, there is the focus ring and aperture ring. The aperture rings works like on every other Fuji lens, so there is not much to talk about there. Focusing ring is pretty wide and it has a good grip. This lens uses focus by wire system, but it is actually one of the best focus by wire lenses that I've ever tried. There is a very nice amount of completely even resistance. With linear settings, I was able to make smooth focus pulls at f1 right away, so thumbs up for manual focusing. So how about the optical qualities? First of all, this is a pre-production sample, so keep in mind that fine lens might have even better optical qualities. I have tested this lens with the latest 26MP sensor in X-T4. Already at f1, the sharpness is very good in the center of the frame. The contrast is a bit weak and as expected, there is a lot of chromatic aberration. The corner sharpness is very decent as well. The contrast and chromatic aberration is about the same as in the center of the frame. Majority of chromatic aberration is already gone by f1.4. Here we can basically see a perfect sharpness in the center of the frame and excellent contrast. Sharpness in the corners is almost the same, but the contrast is still a bit weaker. At f2, the image quality is perfect across the frame. The sharpness is outstanding in the center of the frame and in the corners, and the chromatic aberration is completely gone in the center. There is a tiny bit of chromatic aberration in the corners, but it won't affect real-world images. The image stays perfect up to f8 across the frame. At f11 we can see a tiny bit of diffraction, but it is still more than usable. As I have said, this is pre-production unit, so the chromatic aberration may be improved in final copies by in-camera corrections or maybe by coating. Regardless of that, it is already the sharpest lens that I've ever tested with a crop sensor. X-T4 sensor has very high pixel density and it is very demanding. 50mm f1 can fully match this sensor, and if Fuji decides to go with higher pixel density one day, this lens will be ready for that. I won't judge the distortion and vignetting, again, because it is a pre-production sample. It is probably already corrected in the RAWs, and I can't see any signs of distortion or vignetting having negative impact on the image quality, so I don't think that it will be an issue with this lens. Regarding the bokeh, that is one of my most favorite things about this lens. With 75mm f1.5 equivalent, it can obviously provide very shallow depth of field and separate the subject. The rendering of bokeh is very nice in my opinion. The transitions are very smooth and there are no harsh outlines. At f1.0, the bokeh balls have so-called cat's eyes shape. At f1.4, the bokeh balls are much rounder and they are completely round at f2. I think that the background blur looks great even in more difficult situations, so I like the bokeh a lot. Minimum focus distance is 70 cm, which is better than with most full-frame counterparts. The image quality right at the minimum focus distance is okay, but only above f2.8. I think that it is a good lens for flowers, but not for wristwatches. Regarding the autofocus, that is one thing that I really can't fully evaluate with this pre-production sample. In stills it was already pretty fast and accurate. You can certainly feel the glass moving inside of the lens whilst focusing. It is not the fastest focusing lens that I've ever tested, but it will be more than sufficient for portrait shooting. An important thing is that I can already say that the focusing will not be annoying. There is no optical image stabilization in 50mm f1, but fortunately X-T4 has very effective in-body image stabilization. To my big surprise, it is actually very effective at this focal length. That weight of 845 grams is actually a big benefit for stabilization, because a heavier setup is always more stable. This combination would actually work great for my short telephoto handheld B-roll shots. To sum up, first of all, I am very glad that this is not just a show-off product to prove that Fuji can make f1.0 autofocus lens. It is usable and useful, fully featured professional lens. Optically, it is the best lens that I've ever tested on a crop sensor. There is chromatic aberration at f1, but it is definitely usable in the real world. From f2, the image quality is perfect. I also like the bokeh, but some may not like cat-eye shaped bokeh balls at f1. The autofocus will definitely be sufficient for portrait work. If the price will be around rumored $1,500, it will be roughly on par with full-frame equivalents, but it also provides full-frame results, so that would be fine by me. You can check the real price in the description. A specific advantage of this lens for me personally is just the fact that you can use it with X-T4. I've been using this camera for a while now and it is one of my most favorite cameras on the market. With this lens you can get full frame results with X-T4 and I like that a lot. Overall, I think that 50mm f1.0 RWR will be a very good choice for professionals working with Fuji X system and therefore I can recommend it. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section and see you next time.